Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. The Worm and the Wolf. Episode 1, The Pact Beneath the Stones. The pendant was already warm when Kalen took it into his hand. It hung from a chain of blackened silver, heavy despite its small size, etched with symbols that seemed to shift when the light caught them just right. At its center lay a stone the color of old moonlight, clouded, cracked, yet faintly glowing, as if something beneath it were breathing. Kalen stared down at it from where it lay against his palm, his fingers rough and scarred from years of holding a sword rather than trinkets. He had never worn jewelry in his life. Soldiers learned quickly that anything dangling from the body was something an enemy could grab. Yet this was different. This was his father's. No, his mother's. No one had spoken of it aloud, but when the old woman pressed it into Kalen's hand on her deathbed, her grip had been desperate, her eyes sharp with a fear that hadn't dulled even as her body failed. Beneath the stones, she had whispered, "When the blood sings, promise me." He had promised, because that was what sons did when mothers were dying. Now, standing alone in the dim light of the barracks storeroom, Kalen wondered what in the seven hells he had agreed to. He closed his fingers around the pendant. For a heartbeat, the warmth flared, almost painfully so, then settled, as though satisfied. Kalen exhaled and slipped the chain over his head, tucking the pendant beneath his armor. Just a keepsake, he muttered to himself. Nothing more. The war did not allow for superstition. By dusk, the horns sounded. The northern ridge, again. Kalen joined the line as the Iron Watch formed ranks, shields locking, spears braced. The enemy banners were already visible beyond the rise. Black cloth stitched with crimson sigils, snapping in the wind like torn wings. The Ashbound. They had been enemies for as long as anyone remembered. Kingdoms rose and fell, kings died and were replaced, but the Ashbound always returned, burning villages, poisoning wells, dragging war back from the grave. Kalen had killed men from that banner since he was 17. Tonight would be no different. The first volley of arrows screamed overhead. Shields rang. Men shouted. The ground trembled as both lines surged forward. Steel met steel. Kalen fought as he always did, methodical, brutal, efficient. He blocked, struck, advanced. His sword cut through mail and flesh alike. He felt the familiar ache in his shoulders, the burn in his lungs, the narrowing of the world to breath and blood and motion. Then the ambush hit. The Ashbound flank burst from the tree line with a roar, slamming into the Iron Watch's side. The line buckled. Men fell. A horn blew, too late. Kalen turned just as an axe crashed into his shield, splintering wood and throwing him backward. He rolled, came up on one knee, and barely raised his blade in time to deflect a second strike. The impact jarred his arm to the bone. More enemies closed in. 3. No, 4. He felt the first cut along his ribs, hot and shallow. The second split his forearm. Blood soaked into his sleeve. The pendant burned. Not warmed. Burned. Kalen gasped, clutching his chest as agony flared through his lungs, through his spine, down into his legs. He dropped to one knee, vision blurring, breath tearing from his throat in ragged gasps. The Ashbound soldiers hesitated, startled by the sound that tore from him, half scream, half snarl. Something inside Kalen broke open. The pain transformed, reshaping itself into something feral and vast. His bones creaked, then cracked. Muscles twisted, surged, expanded. His armor split at the seams as his body grew, reshaped by a force older than fear. Kalen screamed again, but this time the sound was no longer human. The world sharpened. Scents flooded him. Iron, sweat, rot, smoke. He could hear heartbeats, feel vibrations through the earth. His hands, no, his forelimbs, ended in claws that bit into the dirt as he rose. Where a man had knelt, a wolf now stood. not a natural beast. This wolf was massive, shoulder-high to a warhorse, its fur dark as storm clouds, its eyes glowing pale silver like the stone in the pendant that now lay fused against its chest. The ashbound soldiers stumbled back in terror. Which spawn? Kalen, if he was still Kalen, lunged. The wolf moved with impossible speed. Jaws crushed bone. Claws tore through armor as if it were cloth. The battlefield dissolved into chaos as the creature tore through the ashbound flank, a living storm of teeth and fury. Men fled. Men died. And with every heartbeat, the wolf felt stronger. When the last enemy within reach lay broken in the mud, the wolf threw back its head and howled. The sound rolled across the battlefield, deep and thunderous, echoing against the hills. Silence followed. The Iron Watch stared. Some dropped their weapons. Some crossed themselves. Kalen collapsed. He woke beneath canvas, the smell of herbs thick in the air. Pain returned slowly, dull and human once more. He groaned, lifting a hand to his chest, and froze when his fingers brushed the pendant. It was cool now. Calm. You're awake, a voice said. Kalen turned his head. Captain Roderick stood nearby, arms crossed, expression carved from stone. Behind him, 2 guards waited, hands resting uneasily on their spear hafts. How long? Kalen rasped. Long enough, Roderick said. You want to explain what in the gods' names happened out there? Kalen swallowed. His throat felt raw, like he'd been screaming for hours. I don't know, he said truthfully. I didn't even know this thing, kid. He broke off, gripping the pendant. My mother gave it to me. Roderick's eyes flicked to the chain. His jaw tightened. Did she now? You know something, Kalen said. I know stories, the captain replied. Old ones. The kind men tell in whispers when the fire burns low. Roderick stepped closer. There was once a warrior who fought the Ashbound long before our kingdoms had names. A man who wore a wolf's soul into battle. They called him the Wolf of Stone. Kalen's blood ran cold. They say he was bound by a pact older than the crowns, Roderick continued. A pact sealed beneath the stones of an ancient ruin. And that his enemy. The captain paused. His enemy was never truly slain. Outside, thunder rumbled, though the sky had been clear moments before. Kalen tightened his grip on the pendant. My mother said, beneath the stones, he murmured. What does that mean? Roderick looked away. It means, he said quietly, that this war didn't begin with us. The ground shuddered, faint but unmistakable, like something massive shifting far below the earth. Far to the east, beyond sight, something ancient and burning stirred within the mountains. And somewhere in that awakening, a presence turned its gaze toward the battlefield, and recognized the wolf. For more stories, like and subscribe.